All right, everyone, welcome to episode 2 of the TikTok LoveLine. Episode 1 was a lot of fun. We've been doing the live stream. We've started it a few minutes ago. We're already getting a bunch of great questions. We got like 50 people in here. So let's see. So Jacqueline already chimed in and she said that she's had a friend for a long time, a guy friend. She's getting divorced, and now she's picking up on some vibes that perhaps this long term platonic friendship may be more, right? So she said we're long-term friendship, and you've been married 20 years. But yeah, I'd be curious to hear why else you think maybe they like you. And we're talking about how oftentimes, a long-term friendship can turn into something more. And sometimes, uh, this is funny. She goes, "He hates my husband, but for good reason." Well, I mean, it sounds like there's a divorce, and there's probably a reason why that happened. And I would imagine you have some stories that you were not so pleased with him, and maybe that dislike has turned into, is amplified because of his feelings for you. But all right, yeah. So for those of you here, be sure to double tap the screen, click like, throw out some questions. We already had a couple good ones as a warm up. But yeah, maybe. What do you think of him? Other guy friends have come and gone. He stuck around. So all right, it sounds like you're thinking about it. And so I'm curious. Well, what are your thoughts? Do you see him as someone potentially, that you could be with, that you could date? And I'm curious to what you thought when you were in the relationship. Were there ever any boundaries that have crossed? I'm really invested in your story right now, so I want to hear more about that. Where can I meet men? I'm done with online dating. Look, I get that sentiment all the time, and it's tough because the thing with online dating is it makes so much sense on paper, where it's like, okay, I have access now to all these people that I would have never met, so you would think I'd have a better chance of meeting someone that I'm compatible with. And sometimes, guy or girl, sometimes that is the case, sometimes it's not. And there's a lot of reasons and psychology behind it. I think online dating has kind of gotten more difficult. But how did people meet before? It's kind of crazy. We have this online, and then it's like, well, how have they done it for generations and generations? Um, Here's some of the old school ways. Being introduced through friends. Sometimes you got to throw yourself out there. Do your friends know of anyone? Do they have a friend of a friend who's single? Getting set up. Just allowing yourself to go out, go to concerts, do things you love, go to art fairs. Start a hobby. There's all these really great hobby sites now where you can, like, what do they call those, where you are able to, join a kickball league or something like that, but find something, and then you have folks of mutual interest. But it is difficult, especially if we were relying so much on online dating. So yeah, that's a great question, and if you figure out that answer too, you let me know. So Jacqueline says he's a great guy. I would love to see him. Well, that's awesome. Now, is he showing some interest? So he mentioned to me in discussions that a good man would not want to be involved with a married woman. So it sounds like this guy, has held boundaries, has been friends with you, and maybe you developed a friendship while you were married. And it sounds like, what did your husband think? Was he, at the time, your ex, was he ever like kind of a little suspect to you guys? How do you know when you're over your ex completely? Well, for one, if you're not asking that question, I'm kidding, but kind of not. Um, Here's the thing with getting over an ex, right? It, for one, just takes time. And one of the ways that it goes by faster, right, is looking at what need were they fulfilling other than just that of a romantic need, and identifying, right, because when you're single, it's now a time that you're able to do things that maybe you weren't able to do in a relationship. And a lot of times when we get deeper into a relationship, we lose ourselves a bit, right? Finding that individualism of who am I, and really taking advantage of this time being single. Processing the relationship, maybe in therapy, maybe it's with supportive people, and letting yourself get out there. And the quickest way to do that, I know it's kind of that joke, is like, go find a better one. Now, you shouldn't just go relationship hopping, but if you do that work yourself first, and then do that, you'll likely get over them. But look, sometimes people get hung up on their exes for a long time, and I think that's one of the reasons why is that they don't do that individual work. And look, sometimes there's other reasons where it's like, God damn, the sex was just so damn good with them, and you think about it quite a bit. But it's important to remember the reasons why you broke up, right? It's kind of like folks who quit drinking, and they're like, quote, an alcoholic, and their life was just sent to hell because of alcohol, but then they still fantasize about it, or they think about the good times, but they don't always think about, okay, well, why am I sober in the first place, and how miserable I was, and why it was unhealthy. So it is a process. It's one of the harder things to go through is a breakup. Okay, if I'm asexual now, will I always be uninterested in intimacy? Well, honestly, like, asexuality is rare, right? But I think we're finding it's not as rare as we thought. And everyone's version of asexuality is different, right? And the fact that you're asking me that, I'm curious. I'd like to hear a little bit more about your history. I wish I could like talk to folks about, how long have you been asexual? And I've met a couple of my clients and coworkers, and since you don't come across folks who are asexual every day, and obviously I'm pretty interested in people and psychology, I ask them so many questions about it, and it is just this general disinterest in sex, and sometimes intimacy is not part of that too. Like one of my buddies, he was asexual, but like he always had girlfriends, right? And he just didn't have interest in sex with them, but he was still in a way romantically attracted to women. It's kind of boggled my mind a bit, but it does make sense. So will you always? I mean, I can't say. I'm not sure. And there's just so many more questions I would have for you. But tell me a little bit more about your history, and I'll keep my eye out for that. All right, so back to Jacqueline and her friend that was hovering in the background while she was married. He has mentioned to me in discussions. Oh wait, we already got that. Let's see if you any more. So something, because we're close friends, I guess I'm wanting advice on signals when I talk about what I'm looking for in the future. He seems curious. I also think he may want to make sure I go through with the divorce. Yeah, so look, maybe there's no rush here, right? You're going through a divorce. You don't want to hop into anything else. Sounds like the person's been a good friend. You've had a solid relationship. Why jump in? There's no rush. So just continue to be friends, have conversations, and pick up on the signals. And I think you'll slowly test the waters. You could put a little couple breadcrumbs, and then he does, and then but look, it's okay at some point, and it could be now, but maybe waiting till after the divorce, have that conversation, be like, hey, is there something here? Like, have you ever thought about that? And you could kind of be cool about it and actually have that conversation, because maybe he'll be like, yeah, look, I've always, thought of you as a friend, but, you've been married, and I left it there. And, maybe I could see us being more, right? And then you can make that decision from there. But I don't know. I mean, it sounds like it could be the start of, it's not a bad way for a relationship to start, being friends first. Chris, I'm not ignoring your question. This is harder than you would think. Oh, here we go. Chris, I'm going to find your question. My ex was a Jehovah's Witness. He cheated a lot. I stayed with him, but I know I shouldn't have. All right, there's a lot of weird stuff going on here, because like Jehovah's Witnesses are like super strict on everything, right? And I think if you're a Jehovah's Witness, I don't think you're supposed to be having premarital sex. And Chris, it's looking like you're a dude, and you're saying he cheated a lot. So being gay, also probably a big no-no in Jehovah's Witnesses. So that's really interesting. And like, was he a devout Jehovah's Witness? But he cheated a lot. I stayed with him, but I know I shouldn't have. Yeah, and look, I've done some posts on this. Maybe you saw my latest post, about cheating. But it is really complicated. And if someone is a serial cheater, yeah, that's probably a reflection that it's not working, or this person's not in a healthy place. Well, could this, are they forever going to be a cheater and not able to ever be in a healthy relationship? We can't say that for sure. We don't know. But look, for where he's at right now, it's probably glad that you're out of it. But that's super odd to me that he's assumedly gay, and sleeping around having premarital sex, and he's a Jehovah's Witness, and they're about as strict as it gets on some of this. So sorry I missed that. How do I stop obsessing over my crush? I've liked him for 3 years, and he's repeatedly said he's not interested. Well, I mean, he is being upfront with you, right? And I think in this situation, I don't know what the nature of your relationship is if you're friends, but it may be good for you and it may be nothing that he's doing that's wrong. It's just your interest. And it may be best to take some time and some distance, right? Because it's like you're torturing yourself, like being around him and continuing to have these feelings. So maybe it's in your best interest to, set some boundaries, and that may just be, spending less time. And if he's like, hey, what's going on? I'm not hearing from you, and da 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 da. It's fair to say, you've expressed your feelings and that you just need a little time. And then, okay, so you're saying we're very close. He's my best friend. Okay, we're very close. My best friend is married to his best friend, so we're together like every day. Yeah, so that makes it tough. But yeah, maybe it would be of benefit to take a little distance, and that doesn't mean it has to be forever, but maybe a little bit of separation and finding some other guys and doing some work on yourself. Just like the individual before with the breakup. I think that could help a bit, right? Because it seems like you're torturing yourself, like always being around him and fantasizing, and that's just not helpful. What if he's just not ready because of being hurt in a different relationship? And Julie, I wonder which situation you're talking about. But yeah, you never know, in any of those situations, what the reason is. But I usually find, look, if they're interested, they'll make the time. I think a lot of times just letting people down easy. Oh, I'm not ready. And look, I mean, there's always going to be some truth to that. But, if someone really is interested, they're going to go out of their way. Like, think about someone like you are super attracted to and interested in, like, you'll find a way to make the time. And usually people would rather jump in too soon than hold off and wait, right? But yeah, Sophia, no problem. I wish you the best. Maybe set a little bit of those boundaries. Come back. Let me know what you're thinking. What if he's just busy remodeling the kitchen? Then, the man's busy. He's got to get that kitchen looking good. Get some shaker cabinets in there. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Anyways, what else? Let's get some fresh questions. Maybe I missed one. Okay, so Primo, no question. I just wanted to comment. I hate my cheating ex, and I just got my heart crushed. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Primo Bear. And again, a lot of themes here with breakups and just how much they suck and how it takes time to get over it. And it's especially harder when there is that episode, infidelity. And one of the reasons for that is, even if it has nothing to do with you and it's just all that person being toxic or whatever, it brings up a lot of insecurities, right? Well, was I not good enough, or what did I do wrong? And usually, I mean, look, there's a lot of times there are unhealthy dynamics that build up over time in a relationship, that both individuals in the relationship can and should take accountability. But that doesn't mean that cheating is okay, 99% of the time, and that just, makes a breakup harder on that other person. How to deal with a girlfriend who's too close with her male coworker. All right, so this is kind of the opposite situation with Julie before. Look, that's a tough one, and it happens, right? And I'm just assuming, maybe I'm wrong to assume, in a monogamous relationship, and it's like people have their quote work wives, their work husbands. And I'm curious as to why you say they're too close, right? Is she like texting him all the time in bed and giggling and Mike said, blah blah blah. But yeah, I mean, I think that is something to have an open conversation about and saying, hey, like, I'm uncomfortable with how close you are, and it seems like maybe there's some boundaries here, and I'm feeling insecure about that, and just kind of calling it for what it is. And, look, she may have that reaction of like, well, you're just being jealous and da 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 da. And so it's like, I don't know, man, what can you do except I think just be open and honest about it, maybe not making the biggest explosion over it, but just kind of letting her know, plant that seed of like, hey, I'm noticing this and I'm feeling insecure about it, and you know, it, and just start that dialogue. And if it starts becoming more of an issue, you may have to dial up that level of concern and maybe start setting some boundaries around it. If she does cross boundaries, look, sometimes it's fun for people to tap the line. Well, I didn't cheat, but it's like, they're kind of, I'm getting some emotional need met from them, right? And it may not cross into the line of physical, but sometimes, not all cheating, for lack of a better term, is physical, right? And so I would just say have that conversation and see where it goes. And maybe you already have, but I'm curious, Nick, have you had that conversation and what was her response? Rena's here, friend of the show. What up, bestie? She says. And right back at you, Rena, another Minnesota local here who's been around for quite a while. So anyways, yes, if any of y'all have any other questions, sex, love, romance, feel free to shoot it out there. And for those of you who are just popping in and just following me, I really encourage everyone to shoot me an email. The link is in the link tree in my bio. You can find it on my website. But feel free to shoot me an email and I'll send over some free therapy guides that I put together, things that I do with clients that you may find helpful. So if anyone is interested, let me know and I'll remind you on how to do that. So if anyone is interested in free therapy guides, please let me know. Anyways, all right, we got some new people popping in. I could use a good question. I need something to chew on here. Maybe in the meantime, I'll have to go and look and see if I missed anything. Oh, here's one that's maybe not love related, but hey, we don't have any other questions at the moment, so let's do it. Taking the ASWB Master's exam in a few days, and I'm crazy nervous. Any advice? So that's the social work board exam. Well, look, it's going to be exciting when you get your license. A very high percentage of people pass them, and the fact that you're even nervous probably means you're taking it seriously, that you're studying. I think it's really helpful too when you have one of those apps that are actually giving you practice test questions. And if you do good on those, it really highly correlates. So if you're passing those, you should be fine, right? So you're a social worker, maybe sounds like you got some anxiety. So use those skills that I know you have. How to go about dating when super busy. Man, that's a tough one, right? I think, it's about priorities. A lot of us are very busy. And I think it's just a matter of where your priorities lie. How much do you want to get into dating and looking at, well, what are all these other things keeping me so damn busy? And look, right off the bat, dating doesn't have to be this like number one priority. I mean, you can, let's say it is online or you meet someone, it's okay to be casual, shoot some messages, go grab coffee, just like you would, with your friends. You just have to find the time somewhere, right? And that may be, hey, I hang out with my friends 3 days a week. Well, maybe that's I hang out with them twice a week, right? And, once you start to meet someone that you are liking, then you're increasingly okay with prioritizing them over other things, right? It's all like a list of priorities and where things lie, right? So maybe if dating's number 9, bumping it up to 7 and some other things get shifted around. It's like, the rankings of sports and teams and, all that good stuff. Do I provide online sessions? I do. I do coaching sessions with folks I meet on here. It just depends on my availability, but you could feel free to shoot me an email in the link tree in my bio if you're interested. And I could tell you how to go about that. I could probably take on maybe one person. Some dog, what's up? Another friend of the show. What's going on? Cheeseball says, why was my? But then we just left it there. So we'll see what Cheeseball has to say. But again, we need some questions. But yeah, going back to that, Chell, you're going to have to come back and check in on us and see, if you're able to rearrange your priorities a little bit. And so for everyone coming in, if you're enjoying the quote show, feel free to double tap on that screen And let's get some more likes going, and let's get more people in here so we can get more questions and have fun. Do you think people can be truly remorseful after infidelity? If so, why? I think this is like the topic of the week. I've like made a few videos on this, so it's like cheating is all up in my head. So all right, so I got a good answer for this. Why? Okay, yes, absolutely. I think. Okay, so I'm gonna throw some numbers out. Right, about 15 to 20% of people in relationships report infidelity, right? Like that they've cheated. So that's 15 to 20% of people who have admitted it, and that's just married relationships. All right, so let's do a little poll here. Who here, and I won't call your name out, but who here has cheated? All right, so we're going to do a 1 and a 0. A 1 is if you've ever cheated on a boyfriend, and let's just say it's like past high school or something, that doesn't count, or maybe even college, right? So if you've ever cheated on a partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, husband, wife, if you've cheated before, put a 1. And if you've never cheated, put a 0. And we're going to do a little experiment. But about 15 to 20% of people have admitted cheating, and that's just admitted it. That's just marriages. So the numbers are probably higher than that. Right? All right, so we got 1, 1, 0. So, all right, already cheating is winning. Right? So, all right, we're half. We're tied. 2, 1, 0. So remember, 1 is you have cheated before, and 0 is never cheated. So in any relationship in any way. So let's get some more numbers and we could see. But from what we know, about 15 to 20%, and it's probably higher than that. So now, are 15 to 20% of people just like not remorseful? And so for those of you who have put 1, let me know, like, did you feel bad about it? Because honestly, like with your question, if one person says they felt bad about it, then it is possible. Right, cheeseball, we got another number 1. So if you have cheated and felt bad about it, let me know. All right, so we're getting even more 1s coming in. So we're looking like it's almost 50-50. Linnell's coming in. She's saying, I cheated and I felt bad about it. So there's your answer. I think most people probably feel bad about it. It's like monogamy, especially perfect monogamy, is pretty damn hard, and people slip up. And even if you do love your partner, right, there's a lot of reasons why people cheat. And, it's like one person, it's really difficult for them to meet every single one of your needs, right? Sometimes there's, sexual incompatibilities, and there's just things that they cannot give you, right? And so you could find yourself in a weak, vulnerable place a few drinks in, on vacation or on a work trip, and you succumb to your lower nature. And you could feel pretty damn bad about it because you love, care, and respect your partner. But there are a subset of people who cheat and don't feel bad about it. They're more exhibiting some antisocial behaviors, just generally disrespectful, neglectful, non-empathetic of their partner's feelings, and they serially cheat. And these are just toxic people or people in a toxic place. Sometimes you have folks that exhibit sexual compulsivity, right? And they have a really hard time controlling themselves, but they really love their partner and they just got a lot of issues they need to work on and they feel very remorseful. So I'd say like probably more people than not would actually be able to feel some remorse about it, but there are a subset of people who may not. And I think that's where there is some stigmatization, because, we think of everyone who cheats as, that antisocial person who just doesn't give a shit. Thanks for sharing the live. Be sure double tap the screen. We got over 50 people in here right now. We have some great topics. Well, let's go back and look, and feel free to chime in too if you haven't already. If you've ever cheated on someone, put a 1. If you've never cheated, put a 0. So let's see. Let's go up and we'll see what the tally is. So we got, all right, so we got 3 zeros. Okay, so we're tied here. 3, 4. All right. So actually, so far, one more person has cheated than not. So over 50% of people in here have cheated on a partner. All right. Now the zeros are coming back and winning. So the zeros are up 1. But look, we're pretty close to 50-50. It's a coin flip, right? So are we going to say half these people are irredeemable? I don't think so. I have more faith in you people. You seem like good people. I'm sounding like Trump. You seem like good people. You're good people. Sorry if I'm triggering. Anyways, yeah, the zeros are running. All right, let's get some more cheaters. Come on, cheaters. I don't know why I want there to be more cheaters, but maybe because that further proves my point, right? That you know, again, I think 20% is low, right? And that just goes to show how tough monogamy, pure monogamy is, right? You could still be monogamous and have cheated on a partner, right? But I find a lot of times the people that like preach to the rooftops about monogamy, right? And the, it's that projection of the folks who are most afraid of their partner cheating, right? Are the ones maybe most likely to do it, right? It's some sort of projection. Speaking of Trump and projection, yeah. So, I think society, we need to work to start to destigmatize cheating and not look at it in the same way as this, event that is a nuclear explosion that you can never come back from. Once a cheater, always a cheater, right? That's just not the case. But anyway, yeah, so who was it? No, it was Hey Kay. She was the one who brought up once a cheater, always a cheater. And that just had my mind going. And I made like 3 videos about it this week, and now we're talking about it more. So we could talk about this forever. Do you think people who are repetitive cheaters carry some sort of narcissist sociopathic trait? So yeah, we just kind of talked about this, and I did talk about this in the video I made. I made a video today. It was actually for a different thing. But anyways, yes, I think for serial cheaters, there's going to be a subset of them that exhibit those antisocial behaviors, whether narcissistic or just like a general disregard for their partner. Some of them may be compulsive, right? Sexual compulsivity, or if you want to call it sex addiction, whatever. Those folks may often feel remorse, but it really would appear that their behavior is totally antisocial, but they just kind of lack behavioral control, right? And those people can get better, but yes, a certain percentage, I think that would be correlated with antisocial behavior, right? If you look at folks with narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, my guess is that they're probably cheating at a higher rate and just don't give a shit. And a lot of times those folks are more hypersexual than your average population. No, you're good. That brought up some good stuff, so no need to apologize. And that happens sometimes. We're doing a live stream. People are coming in and people are coming out. Popping in, popping out. But I hope you all stay around and ask questions. And again, feel free to shoot me an email, and I'll give out some free therapy guides if you're interested. I'll tell you how to do that, so you just let me know. Be nice to get 10 free guides. That'll be the goal. I haven't sent any out in a while. I probably owe people some too. I'm a little bit behind. But they're free, although nothing is truly free in this world. But let me know if you're interested. What are your thoughts on the swingers on TikTok? Well, it's a pretty general category, the swingers. But yeah, I have seen some of the folks that are non-monogamous, and it's funny, but what do I think about them? I mean, look, these are folks that are non-monogamous. What can I say? I mean, I believe in non-monogamy. I believe that it is a very viable option that makes more sense for some people. And a lot of times they're spreading awareness on it, which I think is great. And sometimes they do it in a funny way. So yeah, I like seeing it. They come up on my FYP and I find it amusing. Sometimes it's a little thirst trappy, but hey, that's fun too. Jocelyn, you're interested. So yes, feel free to shoot me an email. It's in the link tree in my bio. Ooh, I got a TikTok hat. And yeah, so all I ask is that you subscribe to any of my other socials. So for those of you on TikTok, it's my podcast, which this is going to be released on my podcast if you can't stick around too long. So YouTube, podcast, and Instagram. For every one of those you sign up for, I will give you a free therapy guide, and just shoot me an email and just let me know that you did it. And there we go. So I want to see my notifications on Gmail popping off that people are reaching out and wanting free therapy guides and subbing to my other socials. So awesome. If any other questions, I'm answering your sex, love, romance questions. So feel free to do that. Anyways, let's see. We talked about repetitive cheaters. All right, folks, give me something. Thanks, Joe. I swipe left on dating apps so hard. How do I find a man I even want to meet? Well, I'm curious as to why. Look, I find that, especially for women, are definitely more choosy than guys on dating apps. There's numbers and research to back this up too. For guys, it's difficult for that reason, right? I think for women, it's like your screeners go up, right? So you're kind of always looking for something wrong, like wait, why is this guy why is his hat tilted like this? Oh, he's got a fish, he's blah, 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 right? If you're a guy, don't put the fish pics up. It's like a compulsive thing. Guys just cannot not put the fish pics up. But it is, it's like you're probably over screening, right? And I think with men, basically all they do is swipe based on looks. And the thing is, you're only going to match unless you're like, Johnny, 6'2", some cool tats and, a six pack on there, whatever, and you have a puppy, and you're going to have every girl matching with you. It's like a very low, it's like the Pareto distribution where it's like 20% of guys on dating apps get 80% of the matches. And so it's like a lot of the women are fighting for these top guys, and then they have all these options. So then these guys are, not going to be as attentive to you. And that makes it all the more alluring and a challenge, right? But then guys are just like left, right. You're hot, you're not. Then they'll like check later, and then maybe you're looking, you're like, oh, okay, here's some red flags, maybe not. But you're just going through because you're not going to match with so many. You're not going to match with like tons of people as a dude again, unless you're the 6'2" guy. But you have a very specific type. Now you're talking about physical, but I don't know, I would maybe turn the screening intensity down a little bit. Don't try to find, if you're trying to find the perfect guy, because here's the thing, like, and I've noticed on mine with online dating is like, I can match with someone and I don't know what's going on in their head, but like this could happen enough where, there's definitely some mutual interest and we text back and forth, but then when it's time to meet, they back away, right? And then I wonder, it's like, well, how do they know, right? And this doesn't always happen, but I'm like, how do they know that I'm not like a great like match for them or compatible? Because all they're basing it on is these like handful of messages we've sent back and forth, and that's why a lot of like the dating experts will recommend that you just shoot a couple messages back and forth and then just go ahead and meet up. Because a lot of times with online dating there's a tendency to over screen, right? And I find that like in situations where I'm introduced to someone, right, like through a friend, right, there's more of a level of comfort. And for women, I think there's a level of comfort that we're talking about too, because there's these strange guys online, you don't know who they are, so you just tend to over screen, right? And so yeah, I mean, I see that on both ends for sure. What else? They remind me of some bad people I've known. Yep, for sure. So you can find that, oh, he's wearing that shirt, I know that, my ex wore that shirt. Nope. Right. But like, is that a way to like, totally write someone off? And it's so easy to like write a human off, by like anything, because there's going to be 100 more guys. Right. So, yeah. So turn down the screener a little bit. What else? Any more questions? Sex, love, romance. I'm here for a little while. Let's see. We are 33 minutes in. I'm going to try to go for about an hour. And at the end, you want to stick around because we're going to do everyone's favorite bad advice. I need like some sound effects, but actually when I edit this, I could put in some sound effects. So here we go. Stay tuned at the end for bad advice. And then there'll be a sound effect in there. And if you're watching on YouTube right now, you just heard the sound effect because you're watching it on YouTube. All right, some people on dating apps are there just for validation, a big game of hot or not. That is true. Maybe I'll get in trouble for this, but I think maybe for women that may be more of a thing, because it's probably easier, right? You're the ones who are doing more of the screening than guys on average. There are exceptions to every rule. And some people aren't serious, and of course that could go for guys as well. But usually I think when guys are on there, they're either looking for a relationship or frankly to just get laid. Same thing with women. There's a lot of women on there who may not be to different degrees of not serious, of just wanting validation to just wanting to hook up to, really being serious and wanting to find a relationship. I've definitely seen more for women. Guys are more likely to just hook up. Yeah, that's just how guys are. Not me, but every other guy for sure. Yeah, but yeah, there is a difference in how men and women approach online dating. Dating in general. It's just there is a different dynamic there. There's a lot of psychological studies that show how women evolutionarily are the ones to screen out, right? So Chell was talking about, right, you were maybe doing some over screening. Maybe that's just me projecting a little bit, but no, but I think that's true, right? Because each, even though there's 1,000 profiles, well, if I screen this guy out, well, there's going to be 100 more, but maybe pay a little bit closer attention. Throw a few messages back and forth. Ask some questions that really mean something to you. Maybe have more deep and meaningful messages go back and forth before you screen that person out, and not just guys do that, and it's like they're just going to get less matches. Like if you're a female on a dating site and you are, I hate to say it, but like at all good looking, you're going to get you're going to get blown up. You're going to have all these it's going to be overwhelming too. And then sometimes you're going to overscreen, and then you're alone crying watching Netflix on another Friday night with me. I wish I screened better when I was 18 of ignoring my gut. Right? But that's the thing. I mean, and I get in trouble sometimes for this, and this goes for guys too, but sometimes, that allure of someone who is unhealthy. Right? Sometimes people that are unhealthy, or they're, they got that little extra charm and they're good looking, and they have all these options, and they're kind of dickheads, guys and girls, right? So it's easy, especially when you're 18, to overlook these red flags, right? It's like I always joke, it's like the guy, I joke with my clients, it's, you're attracted to the guy who pulls up, to your parents' house in the Camaro with the T-tops, or the Firebird, and, blasting Def Leppard with their leather jacket, and they're leaning on the car smoking a cigarette, and your dad's like, I don't want you going out with that guy. You're like, but Dad, I love him. Come on, babe, get in the car, right? And that dynamic persists, and it's like, I think the older you get, the more mature you get, the healthier you are, the less appeal that has. Right? At least some dog says I'm accurate, so if anyone else gets mad at me, but I believe that. Continually understanding, yeah, damn, exactly, except no one told me not to. You didn't have a parent. Your dad didn't say, don't go out with him. He's bad news, that Johnny. He's got the comb going through his hair. Yeah, stay away from Johnny. There may be one of my followers who may be one of my clients they may be watching this, and they'll be like, yep, stay away from Johnny. And we have joked about that before. Especially older guys convincing younger girls that they're so mature. Yeah, they seem so mature, yet they're dating women oh so much younger. But not that that's always wrong. But, it's kind of like that, the 19-year-old guy, picking up the 16 or 17-year-old, in the Camaro. There's always that appeal. Nowadays, that's illegal. But not always. I had parents that didn't give a shit, so that wouldn't have been helpful. So you didn't have a dad to, yell at him, get out, stay away from my daughter. Yeah, sometimes, we got to listen to our folks. But it sounds like yours were not helpful in that one. So that was you as well, some dog mille. Some dog mille. Well, yeah, those are some awesome questions. Camaro, that's exactly how it happened. I know sometimes I'll make that joke and they'll be like, they did have a Camaro and they were smoking a cigarette and blasting Def Leppard. So that is just the stereotype. I've never brought someone home to my parents because I was alone at 16. Well, You and many, many of us as well. All right, folks, if you're just joining, I'm answering any of your sex, love, dating, romance questions. Feel free to shoot them out there. Cello's Linkin Park. Yeah, that's the modern version, more millennial version. But yeah, I'm down with Linkin Park. Maybe I'm that bad boy. But yeah, that's maybe for millennials in the early 2000s, right? So it would be the equivalent. Now, the Camaro is still around. Actually, the Camaro was not around, and they brought it back later. So early 2000s, what would have been the bad boy car, right? Maybe they had like a Jeep. They had like a Jeep Wrangler, and they were blasting Linkin Park. They had like the big lifted tires, pissing your dad off. Like, that guy's up to no good. That's the millennial version. A Mustang. Oh yeah, the Mustang stuck around. So there you go. All right, I had a Jeep, not a Wrangler. Yeah, I've had three. No Wranglers though. I like the Grand Cherokees. Yeah, the lifted truck with no muffler. Yeah, making all the noise and this, they're driving through the suburbs and pissing your neighbors off. Oh, 98 Laredo. Yeah, there you go. Let's see. I had a 96. I had the limiteds though. I'm a little bougie, right? 2,500 cash. Yeah, I had a 96 Grand Cherokee. And that's probably the best of all the ones I had. Because then I had a '04, and then I had a 12. And that one I had up until very recently. I had the 12. It was just, it had all the features, so I didn't really get rid of it. But it broke down all the time. Oh, you have a 2013 and love it? Yeah, I had a 12, and it was, yeah. The one that had the least problems was the 96. And actually, I switched. I got a different car because I was like, I need to try something other than a Jeep because the Jeep I had, it just had this like really unique issue that they literally could not figure out how to fix, and they eventually had to put a new engine in it, and it was under warranty. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So they had to put a whole new engine in after having it in like 8 times. Even the people at the dealership were like, I have never seen anything like this. I'm like, yeah, of course that would happen to me. All right, we're getting on to cars, bad boys. I love this water bottle. I got the spritz on it. Oh. All right, come on. Let's get some questions. I'm hungry for it. Let's see. We are 42 minutes in. So let's see. Electrical issues. Yeah, no, it wasn't electrical. It was oil. So basically, I had this car, and all of a sudden, one day, I'm driving on the highway, and the gas pedal stopped working. But then when I would go slower, it would work. And I guess what happened, I'm not a car expert. What do they call those? A mechanic. And I was like freaking out. I'm like, whoa, I'm on the highway and I can't accelerate. And then I like brought it I was able to bring it to the dealership. I just couldn't accelerate over a certain RPM. And then it turned out it was the oil pressure, right? And there was just no oil. Well, that happened to you too? So there's no oil. So they just did like an oil change. Like, I don't know, there's a leak or something. They did like we can't figure anything out. So they did an oil change and then it worked fine. But then it happened again 3 months later, then happened again 6 months later, and it kept going in. And eventually, they tried to charge me for it, but I'm like, look, luckily it was under warranty when I had it, and they're like, well, this is a different. I'm like, no, this is not a different issue. This is the exact same issue that happens every time. They're trying to weasel their way out of it, and that car, they must have spent tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, just trying to fix that car, could never figure it out. And this is a dealership. This wasn't just like a regular mechanic. And then, and then they'd always give me they'd have to give me a rental car, and it was like always across the street. So then I'd walk across the street, and they'd give me a rental, and it always had to be a Jeep Chrysler product. So they would sometimes I'd get these like ridiculous cars. Like for a while I had like 3 times I had a Dodge Ram, like Hemi, just a giant pickup, and that was kind of fun. And one time they gave me I had a minivan. For like 2 weeks I drove around in a Chrysler minivan. And I actually kind of liked it. It was fast as hell too. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, this car's like faster than my car in the Chrysler minivan. When did I get the blue check mark? A couple weeks ago. I don't know how I pulled it off, but I did, huh? Yeah, this is Car Talk. Yeah, those guys from Boston. But yeah, no one's asked me a sex or love question, so I'm just telling the story of my cursed car. But yeah, so I get these ridiculous rental vehicles. And I was getting so sick of this by this point, every 3 to 6 months. I can't tell you. And then there's my buddy Jake, and we got into it a couple times. But Jake and I have a complicated relationship. The service manager there, I kind of let him have it sometimes, and he was a nice guy at the end of the day, and we worked through our issues, and we'll never forget each other. But he said there was only one other car in the history of him working there that was like worse than mine. So I had the second. I had the second worst car. Yeah, not Jake from State Farm. Jake from Lupient. No, wait, Lupient's where I got my last car. What was it called? Roseville, Dodge, and Chrysler. From Roseville, Dodge, and Chrysler, Jake. So shout out to Jake. If you know him, go visit him if your car needs service, or maybe not, because it just didn't work out well for me. But eventually they had to bring in the Chrysler engineer. They had to bring a guy out to figure out, an engineer, what the hell is wrong with my car. And they decided to replace half the engine. I'm like, okay. So I don't even know what the hell that means. But they replaced half the engine. And then it still happened again, and I had to go back. And then they replaced the whole engine. So they literally put a brand new engine in this 2012 car. And it was fine after that. So I never had an issue after the new engine. This is the kind of shit that happens to me. All right, come on, folks. You could do this. Let's go. Tell us about my first love. Oh, man, I don't want to do that. How often are couples counselors? Yeah, we'll go with this question. How often are couples counselors biased towards one of the parties? So that's a really good question. I had this come up. There was a client that I've been wanting to go to couples therapy for like a year, right? And, super resistant. And his fear, a lot of times the guy has this fear. And it was, in his case, right, he was someone who, had committed infidelity, right? And he felt, and this is a guy too who felt horrible about it. Like, he felt really bad about himself. And it was like a one-time thing. And there was a lot of other circumstances that went into it. But he didn't want to do the couples therapy because he was afraid that he would get ganged up on. And I tried to tell him, look, a good couples therapist is not going to do that. And look, in potentially in the counselor's head, look, we all have our biases, but we have to check those. And a good counselor would check that bias and not let that seep out, right? And it's not about taking a side. It's about, helping people communicate, work through these issues, and maybe get some feedback, and for folks to take accountability in their part, right? Because usually there's going to be, maybe it's weighted highly one way or the other, but a lot of times unhealthy dynamics build over time, and in a relationship these things get neglected. And maybe in the least case scenario of someone getting cheated on, there was just these unhealthy patterns that they allowed to happen, and they didn't set boundaries, right? But then was the other person really doing more of the toxic stuff? So yeah. So that's a great question. But yeah, a good therapist who's trained in couples therapy would not, or at least would do everything they can to not let their bias show. Yeah, so I always recommend folks trying it out, giving it a shot. And if you're feeling that way, maybe find a different one. So Periwinkle says, Happy Black History Month. Well, right back at you. Should I leave my husband, 22 years, in love with him still? ? But he watches TV and eats ice cream. I think worse crimes could happen. Does anyone else here eat ice cream and watch TV? But yeah, maybe you shouldn't leave him just because of that. But maybe there are more issues than just the TV and ice cream. Maybe he's neglectful. Maybe, he's complacent. He says, sounds like a good man. Yeah, maybe he is. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, sometimes, it's easy to get complacent in a relationship. Let yourself go. Take your relationship for granted. I'm picturing him. He has a white t-shirt that he got 15 years ago that's dingy yellow and has holes in it. And he's got sweatpants and he's sitting on the couch taking down ice cream. But yeah, I think it's important in a relationship to just not get complacent, you know, stay grateful and don't take that relationship for granted, and take care of yourself. But I don't know if you should leave him over just the ice cream and TV, because a lot of people are sweating right now, like, oh geez, and they're like, I'm eating ice cream and on TikTok, does that count? Just got out of a toxic relationship and I'm a little scared to be open to love again. Okay, I love this. Not the situation, but it's really hard to trust after getting burned. And I have a little narrative for this. I did a video like really early on about this, but it's like a lot of times what happens. So imagine you're walking down the street, right? And this guy comes up to you and he goes, "Hey, I got a deal for you," right? And he's like, "If you give me $100 right now, I'll give you $1,000," right? And the guy's got like a trench coat and he's just like slick back hair and he just looks totally sketchy. And you're like a nice person. You're like, "Oh, well, maybe." And he's like, "I'll give you 1,000." And you give him 100 and then he burns you. And you're like, "Oh my God, how am I going to trust people? I just got burned." Now, look, a lot of times there's like like it's easy to give people too much trust that don't deserve it, and missing out on some of the red flags. Now, even if that didn't happen and like this person by all measures seemed legit and you gave him your trust and your heart and he abused that privilege, and it does make it hard to trust. So whether it's A or B, now if it's A, it's always good to figure out, why was I vulnerable and susceptible to being, for lack of a better term, conned by this person? Why did I give him so much? Why did I give him, her so much trust? Now, building back trust is tough, but what I work on with my clients is often they're thinking about, how do I go back into that deep level of trust? And a lot of times, folks that are overly trusting, right? They give too much at the beginning. And I'll use the metaphor. So imagine, we're starting a relationship of any kind, whether it's a business relationship or romantic. And the metaphor is, right, give the person $1. So give me $1 and see what happens, and say, "All right, I'm going to loan you $1 and then give me the dollar back," right? Now, if they give you the dollar back, great. Now you can maybe trust them with $2. Now, if they don't give you the dollar back, well, you're just out $1, right? So instead of giving like $1,000 and hoping, giving them your whole heart and love and trust and giving it to them right away, sometimes people do that and it's actually uncomfortable for the other person. Like, whoa, you just gave me everything. What the hell am I supposed to do? You're like, well, take care of my baby. And you're like, what the hell? Right? And some people want that, right? They want you to give them everything, right? Kind of people who are takers, maybe who are more toxic, they're fine with that. Oh yeah, give me that $1,000. I'll do whatever the hell I want with it, right? So give $1. If they give the dollar back, give $2. If they give it, so trust is a gradual process, right? So you're not giving everything at once, and then you have more time to decide, is this the right person for me? Is this someone I could actually trust? Now, you have to be a pretty big slickster, right? I'm going to give it back at every step of the way, right? And sometimes that happens too. So there are no guarantees in life, but that's a good way to start picking up on red flags, is to give it more time and to, test, right? And we do that all the time. It's not just like a thought out thing. Like, we don't trust the guy who walks up to us on the street and says, "Hey, I got a great deal. Let's invest in this penny stock or some shit," right? Probably not going to trust that guy. Maybe you get to know him and they're legit, but it's a slow process. Are you strictly dating, marriage? Could I rely on someone to talk to about losing a parent? I'm sorry, what context are you talking about? Oh, or am I strictly talking about that? No, you could throw out whatever. I mean, we're trying to stick to this, but no one asked a question for a while, so I just talked about my toxic relationship with my car. What's the biggest red flag in dating? I don't know, like, what the winner is, but some to look out for is, that I see. One is like abusing substances. So trying to pick up on that pretty early, because so many times people who come to me with, getting stuck in toxic relationships, it's like, I kind of ignored their drinking and their DUIs and, the cocaine, like whatever that may be. So that's like a big one. Another one is like, them throwing love bombing is a big one you hear a lot about on here. But it's like just, that kind of overly charming and, just showering you with affection. Battery's low. All right, I think that's still going though. Yeah, so that's a big one. The love bombing is a big red flag. Another one I think you see is just kind of that like catfishing dynamic, right? If like they don't have much social media, or they like even after a while don't want you to get added on Facebook, or you can't find them on Google, or they don't want to introduce you to their friends ever or their family like after an appropriate amount of time. There's a lot of different red flags that I've seen people fall into. And then of course later on it's like, I don't know, like you gotta trust your gut. And sometimes they'll say, oh, your gut can steer you the wrong way. But usually in those cases it's because you didn't trust your gut, right? And you were blinded by the ideal of what you thought that relationship could be, right? And so then you go for what your head wants. You go on the emotional response and not like that, hey, look, I know this is probably going to end up bad, but I'm going to go do it anyways, and then hurt later down the line. What else? How to unlearn toxic traits from an unhealthy relationship before getting in a healthy one. Look, I mean, I think it's one of those situations, of course, I'm biased, but therapy, right? If you're finding that you're getting into these really toxic situations, having a huge negative impact on your life, I mean, that's something you want to work out with a professional, so that you don't fall back into that, be proactive. So that would be my recommendation. We don't want to see terrible parts, or we hope to bring out the best. All right, so Carrie, I lost my mom 10 days ago. I still feel in shock and numb. Is that normal? Absolutely. The grieving process is not perfect, right? Like the stages of grief. And, and they don't necessarily happen in order, right? And for everyone, it's different. I think sometimes there's this feeling of guilt if you feel shock and numb. You're like, oh my God, do I not care? But that's a really common response, is it's like so overwhelming that you like don't feel anything. Have you ever gotten like hit in the head really hard, or gotten in like a pretty bad accident or something, or like anything like that? Like you'll notice when that happens that you do, like it doesn't hurt that much, right? It hurts later, right? If you get like not you have like this adrenaline going, like getting in a bad accident or getting hit, it doesn't, no pun intended, hit you until later. It's like, oh, that's going to hurt in the morning, right? So it's like that, right? So I wouldn't think anything of it, and don't feel guilty or ashamed. Like, you're just your mind is protecting itself from, something that is really difficult, right? So you may need that right now. You may need that protection, and then you'll be able to access your emotions more later. And that's why as humans we have rituals, right? Like the funeral process, or whatever culture, religion you're in. Like there are these rituals that we have that actually are built in to help with that grieving process, to address it, get family support, to talk about the person, remember them, right? So I'm really sorry to hear about your loss, and it's not going to sound great, but you'll feel it soon, and what you're going through is normal. How about having trust when someone took that away with SA? So I'll just fucking say it, whatever, sexual assault. Now, that's tough, right? So it's like another, especially when you're young too, and who knows, a lot of times it could be a family member, it could be neighbors, someone you're supposed to trust. And then when you have such an impactful incident happen when you're so young, I mean, that really could change the way you view yourself and view the world, and it makes it that much harder to trust. And I'd probably give you the same advice that I gave on the last person, is you just may need to go into relationships, and that trust building process is just naturally going to be slower. And hopefully a good guy or girl or whoever is going to be understanding of that and be patient. Of course, there's a limit to folks' patience, but you also have to do that work yourself in the trust process, to start pushing your comfort zone, right? And a great way, right? A lot of times when we get into these toxic situations, it's like we ignore our gut, but then we also ignore people around us, like our friends and family, who are telling us like, stay away from this person, but we don't want to hear it, right? So letting your friends and family and supportive people in on your relationship, let them in on it. And, there are ways to mitigate risk, right? You can never fully, yeah, shield yourself, insulate yourself from harm. Like dating is just an inherently emotionally risky thing, or physically risky, right? In your case. But learning to trust your gut and then doing that gradual trust building. Give a dollar when that dollar comes back and let people in, and try to take people's advice. And if there's red flags, don't ignore them, and then you're really going to, if you're doing these things, you're really going to mitigate that risk of something really bad happening again, right? And being more careful. I'm not saying that you weren't careful then. I don't know what the situation was. You may have been a kid, whatever. I'm not trying to go that route at all. But there are ways of, being careful now in how you approach dating, so that that doesn't happen again. And right now you're an adult, and of course there's still that risk, but it's not the same probably as it was in whatever that situation was before. When you're vulnerable, when you're a kid or you're in college and you're drunk, all these situations where these, essay situations happen. So I am sorry that you went through that, and I would just encourage you to, let other people in, push your comfort zone, and that's where the healing is going to come. It's not going to be from avoidance. Oh, which reminds me, someone did ask a while back about avoidance. Or not avoidance, that's about ghosting. Why do people do that? And that's what I believe, it's a form of avoidance. It's avoiding having an uncomfortable conversation. And sometimes it's just avoiding hurting someone's feelings, and like it's just uncomfortable to have that intimate conversation, or just say, hey, sorry, it's not working. And it's like not number one on your priority list. And then all of a sudden, like 3 days go by, and we're like, well, it's going to be weird if I say it now. And then 2 weeks go by, and you're like, oh, okay. Right. And I just think it is a form of emotional avoidance that we should all challenge ourselves not to do. And you're seeing it more and more, not just with, dating, like work. I do a lot of like recruitment and, people not showing up to interviews. And I think there is just an epidemic of flakiness, and ghost. And it really is a huge pet peeve of mine too. And not that I'm not guilty of it sometimes, of that avoidance. I mean, I try not to be too blatant. If I say I'm going to be somewhere, I'm going to damn sure try to be there, right? But, especially with dating, there's a lot of, especially with more of like an online culture, things are just more impersonal. And, it's just like, it's easier to like screw over a stranger like online who you don't know and don't have to face. And it kind of, I think it takes the humanity out of it as well. Like you're less likely to do that to someone you like or know. But when they're just this person I don't know, it just makes it easier to just ignore it. So again, I think it comes down to a form of avoidance. So this is your first steps to healing codependency on your partner. Right. I think, look, if it is truth, codependency, that's another situation where, therapy could be really beneficial. So I'd really recommend, taking those steps, right? Because it's like a form of addiction. Right. And when there is an addiction, there is some void that the behavior is filling for it to be that intense and that deep. All right. So we're getting towards the end here. We got some great questions. All right. Sarah asked that again. I appreciate that. You could ask general mental health question. All right. So I'm going to be hopping off soon. I mean, we're about an hour in, so for the next 10 minutes or until my battery dies here, we're going to do our favorite segment, Bad Advice. I just paused so that I could put a little, sound effect in there. But anyways, so this is a joke. We're going to do bad advice. You could ask me anything, but anything you ask me from now on, I'm going to give you bad advice on. Now remember, do not follow this advice. If you do follow this advice, bad things will probably happen, and I'm not liable for it. So, who do we got? Let's see, what is this? You had pink flags everywhere. Those subtle signs I missed. Kidding. Yeah, look, so think about a bull, right? Like, or and they go for, like, when they see red, they go for it. I think you should do that too. When you see a red flag, just go right for it. Don't avoid it. Just go right through it. What's the worst that could happen? Bad advice. Don't follow this advice. If you follow this advice, bad things may happen. All right, folks, come on. I want to see some more questions before I go. We're giving bad advice. What up, Skeleton? How do I do good in your musical? Oh, well, if you're going to be in a musical, be sure to upstage everyone around you, right? So I don't know if you have the lead role, but if you don't, I think you should really work to upstage everyone around you, stand out, and just sing whatever you want. It doesn't have to be what's on the ballot. Just make sure that people notice you so you could feel validation and feel better than everyone else. Again, this is bad advice. Do not follow this advice. This is just a bit. If you follow this advice, bad things probably will happen, so don't do it. My boy wants to have another woman. Who's your boy? Like, you're saying your boyfriend? He wants to have another woman. So this one may be tough, because I'm going to say just let him do it, but then I may not be kidding though, right? Maybe you want to get into that poly. So how can I deal with people interested in me? I have a boyfriend that I love dearly. So how can I deal with people interested in me? You have a boyfriend. All right, remember, this is bad advice. I am doing a joke bit. So I would absolutely go the route of non-monogamy. However, there's ethical non-monogamy and non-ethical non-monogamy. And so I'm going to advise that you go down the route of non-ethical non-monogamy and just do whatever you want. So if there's a guy that's interested in you, a girl, I can't tell, that's interested in you, just do it. You only live once. Just do what feels good in the moment. That's usually the theme of the advice in the bad advice section, is to just do what feels good in the moment and don't worry about the consequences later. You love your boyfriend, but you know what? If he loves you enough, he'll get over it if you get caught. Just don't get caught. It'll make life easier that way too. Should I call my ex? Chell, are you kidding? Of course you should call them. You should call them. You should meet up where they're at. Oh, and you should maybe, drink, get really drunk, and then just show up at their place like really late at night. And especially if they have a significant other, just do it. And, you may have to get in a fight. How do I get rid of my imposter syndrome? All right. So that's a complicated one for bad advice. I would just keep imposing, right? So just like keep doing more and more things that you're not qualified to do, so that your imposter syndrome actually becomes you just being an imposter. Because usually when people have imposter syndrome, it's, in their head, and they're actually doing good things and accomplishing things. So that's what I work on with people. But in this case, I think you should just keep pushing the envelope and do things so that you actually feel like an imposter and that you're imposing on, do things above what your competency is. Again, this is bad advice. This is just a joke. If you follow this advice, bad things will happen. You said, I'll be sure to steal the spotlight. You're Cinderella. Oh, okay. For sure. Yeah. So like go sing over the backup singers. So yeah, just a disregard for others around you. Should I just start throwing everything away in the trash? Like everything, just like getting rid of everything? Oh, there's two ways you could go. Either A, get rid of everything, no matter how valuable it is. Just get rid of it, especially if it's like sentimental and means something to you. And especially if it means something to someone else, and you really don't have to care. So just throw that away. Or the other way you could go is just throw nothing away. Absolutely nothing, and just let it pile up in your house, and you could start hoarding. Again, this is bad advice. This is just a joke. This is a bit. Do not follow this advice, or bad things will happen. All right, 3 more questions of bad advice, and then we are going to go. How's Bella doing? Oh, Bella, how you doing over there? I heard her like moving around. So, is a casual, mutually beneficial relationship possible in America, not hookup culture, respectful. Again, we're doing a bit right now called bad advice. So, is casual mutually beneficial relation? Yeah, it is possible to do that, and it's especially possible if you have no ethics and you're manipulative and you just do whatever you want. So again, there's ethical non-monogamy and non-ethical non-monogamy. And ethical non-monogamy is hard because it takes a lot of intimacy and vulnerability and communication skills. Or you could just go the non-ethical route and do whatever you want and just hide it and not have to deal with all that BS. So Bella is good. Good to know. Get to know the imposter. LOL. Should I show up to my ex's house and beg him to take me back? Well, I wouldn't beg him to take you back, but just try to hook up with him. Because if you're begging to take him back, then it just doesn't look good. So just go and just go for the hookup, and then try to manipulate him into taking you back later. And maybe blackmail him or pretend that you're pregnant. So go for the hookup and then pretend you're pregnant later. All right, again, folks, this is a joke. This is a bit. This is called bad advice, and we're ending on that. Do not follow this advice. If you follow this advice, bad things will happen, and I'm not liable. So the opposite we say. Yeah, so exactly. So you should probably do the opposite of what I say, and that would actually indicate something that may actually be a good idea of something to do. All right, let's do this one more question of bad advice, and then I will bid you folks adieu, because my battery is dying. It's 10 o'clock. It's Sunday. I got to unwind. This stuff gets my mind going. And I used to do these, early on, I would do these live streams for fucking 5 hours, like crazy. So I love it. It's fun. But I would not be able to sleep after. My mind would be buzzing. All right, folks, come on. One more question. And in the meantime, remember to shoot me an email. I'm giving away free therapy guides. So if you're interested, you let me know. I'll tell you how to do it. But in the meantime, all you got to do is email me and subscribe to any of my other socials. Let me know you did. I'll send it over. And you get up to 3 therapy guides if you do Insta, YouTube, and podcast. I will get you some good stuff. Come on, no one's got a question? Maybe I missed one, so maybe I'll go to find one. Breaking character for the bell update. Yeah, I could break character as long as I'm not in the mode of giving advice. Let's see, did I miss anything? Come on, people, give me something. Yeah, I already got all those. I think there's a glitch here, and I'm gonna get 15 messages pop up at once. So until then, or maybe I'll just have to punish you all and just leave, or maybe you're just waiting for me to leave. Thanks for the follow, Mr. Boxer. Here we go. How do you live? What? How do you live someone 4,000 miles away? Or how do you love? Oh, okay, that makes more sense. How do you love someone 4,000 miles away? Look, it's easy, right? Just do the long distance relationship thing, right? That nothing ever goes wrong with a long distance relationship. But the reason long distance relationships are hard is because you put all your emotional investment in them and they live 4,000 miles away. So you're getting none of your needs met. And someone's asking, what are my credentials? They're probably coming in halfway and they're like, what the hell? Why is this guy giving all this horrible advice? Because we're doing a bit. But I am a licensed clinical social worker and licensed alcohol and drug counselor. But for the next couple minutes, I am none of those things. I am just giving bad advice as a joke. All right. Okay. So yeah, again, they're 4,000 miles away. Long distance relationships are hard because you're putting all your love, your emotions onto that person, yet they're 4,000 miles away and you can't get those physical needs met. So just keep up with that. So just get what you need out of the long distance relationship and then just do whatever the hell you want. Find someone here. it'll be actually nice because you'll have someone far away, you get your emotional needs met, then you could have some people here. So you want to hedge your bets, right? If you it's like putting all your eggs in one basket. If you do that and the basket falls, all your eggs are broken. So you want to have eggs all over the place, right? No pun intended. Anyways, this is bad advice. Do not follow this advice. If you follow this advice, bad things will probably happen. You should probably do the opposite. And if you do those things and bad things happen, guess what? I'm not liable, even though maybe I would be. Anyways, folks, it's been fun. Another episode of TikTok LoveLine. I hope to keep doing this, and hopefully y'all listen to this. You could find it on my podcast. You could find it on my YouTube. That may take a little longer, but so keep an eye out. And I got episode 1 of the LoveLine on there. So if you missed that one, go check it out. I also did bad advice. So yeah, this is the new favorite of everyone. So anyway, it's been real. I appreciate you who've hung around. Thank you for your questions. And until next time, peace out.